years ago, I needed to start transitioning from paper planning to digital planning. As we did more and more school stuff online, the more videos we added, the more whatever that we found, the harder it was getting to keep track of all of that on paper. And not just for planning, like day-to-day purposes, but as I worked ahead, I was losing the links and I couldn't figure out where to save them all. So I started looking online for different options. And back in 2015, there were not as many options as there are now. Over on the Well-Trained Mind forums, I saw talk about Microsoft's OneNote. And that was it. That was the jackpot for me. It was flexible to be able to add in files and links and organize in all kinds of different ways. And while I didn't use it for our day-to-day work for most subjects, for history and science especially, or any other course that I was creating myself, it was perfect. And then, as happens, life evolves, and I switched over to Homeschool Panda. Homeschool Panda has been wonderful for us. But this year, for Ben, it just wasn't going to work the way I needed it to work. Not about the program. It's just I needed more flexibility with the planning. And we're using Build Your Library this year with Ben. And getting it to take their plans and get it in Homeschool Panda was just hard. I also needed more flexibility with the way I could enter links and files. I started thinking about what I was going to do. And Elizabeth just kept saying, why don't you go back to OneNote? Because that's what I used for her as a high schooler. So, long story short, we're back to OneNote for Ben. A few things that I really love about it. One, you can embed right into your plans files, like PDFs. You can either insert them to be able to read them on the screen, or as an insert so they could click on it and then it would open into Adobe Reader, for example. If you have YouTube videos, you can, if you paste the link into them, they'll populate the video right inside the OneNote file, so your student doesn't have to go to YouTube and risk getting distracted there. MP3s, they can all be put in there, and that is a huge benefit to me. There are lots of ways to organize it. When I'm done with this part, I'm going to open up my OneNote and show you the way that we've organized it, plus a couple other different ways that you could consider. Something that I did not just know until this year, honestly, and I've been using this off and on for 7 years now, is that you can actually create templates within the pages so that when you add additional pages, the template's there and you can just fill it in. So I have bins like a Monday through Friday with science, like the books listed on there. And so I have that. And so then every time I add a new page, it's already populated for me. I don't have to recreate, copy and paste, etc. So much help. So much easier doing it that way. It syncs across platforms. So if I update it on my laptop, give it a few seconds and it will refresh over on Ben's computer, which is really helpful. One, for me checking to see as he's doing his day, like what he's done. But also if I forget to insert a link or I make a change, then it's going to populate for him. So that's wonderful. It also syncs across multiple platforms. So from laptop to desktop, of course, but then also to iPad. I have it on here as well. He prefers usually to watch videos on the iPad versus his computer. So he can work on there. And then when he's ready to do any videos, he can just pull this up and it's fixed there. You can also put it... Yes, my phone is upside down. In case you're wondering. You can also put it on your phone for that purpose. Now, OneNote is, a lot of people love to use OneNote for things like grocery lists and meal planning and all that kind of stuff. It's not my cup of tea for that. But for homeschool planning, I think that OneNote is a much underrated resource. Oh, and then the biggest benefit, or one of the biggest benefits, is that it is free. So that's obviously great for everyone's budget. It does take a little getting used to, and you have to figure out the best way to make it work for you. But it's easy to reuse from year to year. Other benefits, like I said, of being able to put in your links and customize it however you want. There are some great homeschool planners out there online, including Homeschool Panda. I am using it still for Matthew. But OneNote is an option that if you're willing to put in a little bit of extra work, might be great for you, especially if you need more flexibility than what other planners, print or digital, are offering you. So I'm going to turn the camera around and you can plan with me. Before I get into showing you different ways that I've used it over the years, I want to give you a basic layout. If you think of OneNote and each notebook as a binder, and then you have sections. So these would be like the different dividers that you would have inside of a binder. And then you have pages, and you can think of those as the different 3 hole punched lined papers, notebook papers that you would have. Okay? So within a notebook, usually the way I have it set up is that I have a divided section for my plans, a section for books to read, and other resources, or some variation thereof. So when I started, it was because I was putting together my own American Revolution unit. So I started by going through and just finding different events I might want to cover and some different resources. And then I started breaking it down into the different sections and different topics. So by years is how I categorize these different pages, and then within them, my different notes. So you can see I've got the different titles, subtopics, and then my notes to go along with it. So I found you could embed images and audio, PDFs. You can do PDFs as an attachment or as an actual image. And then by the time I got to the study of World War II, again, I dedicated the first page to different resources and ideas, and then I broke down each one. And you can see by this point, I had discovered putting in a table and put my days across the top, and then my basic things that we were going to do. So what we would read out of Story of the World, other books, etc. Other extension ideas I would throw around down here. Jump ahead to 2016, and I was using this to plan out, or I started out the year this way. It's when I first tried to make the leap into full planning in it. And I'd actually forgotten that I did this part until I started planning for this video. I was like, ooh, actually that would have been really helpful to do this year too. So I made an overview, and this one was the overview for all of us together. So the subjects that we do together. And then I broke it down for the kids depending on what they were doing individually. And I obviously didn't put a lot of details into these, but it was helpful to be able to have a year at a glance and really see how things are balanced out. Now, last year when we were doing Story of Africa, I knew we weren't going to do it every day, and it was going to be a much more hit or miss. So rather than dividing out days of the week and stuff, I just listed things to do. I've got my links, and then I also had some pages that I broke things down with. And this worked really well because I knew that it was just going to be whatever the next thing was and not a detailed everyday type of plan. I'm going to show you one more thing, and then I will show you how I'm using it this year with Ben. Now, we also do little bite-sized units sometimes where we'll just do kind of different topics with a variety of resources. And so I do that in here as well. I have a bunch of topics, and then as I find resources, I throw them in there. And then when I'm ready, I start organizing it some way. So this was what we did last year for the Winter Olympics. This was how I ended up organizing it. We did a really fun unit one year where we learned about different sites around the world. It started out as an architecture unit and then kind of progressed from there to just being different sites. And it was a lot of fun. And I would just do a picture of it, some little information. If we had a link, I would throw that in there, as you can see. But otherwise, that was it. So for Build Your Library this year, I started out with a new section of just things that I needed to do. And then I was showing Ben different ways that we could possibly organize this. One option, which is the way that I think I would have preferred, but it's not me if it's his, is to have it broken down by the weeks and then list everything that needs to be done each day, more like a typical calendar or regular planner. He, however, did not love that idea. Instead, he wanted it broken down by subject. To me, this would be maddening to try and follow, but for him, it's working. So I have the subject, and then I have the different, breaking it down by weeks. And I did them all in like 3 or 4 week chunks for easier navigation. So for our math, he's using Mr. D's math. And I just broke it down by the things. I don't have the lessons. I do not have the actual days on there. Usually he spends somewhere between a day and a half per lesson. And it's key he's keeping up with it fine. For history, though, I've copied it directly over from the lesson plans inside Build Your Library. And when I mentioned about having a template, this is where I discovered it. So I made these little tables, and you do that by going up to Insert and then Table. And then I put in the days of the week and then the books that it starts with. The books vary depending on the week, but it's usually in chunks of time that they're the same one. So it was easy. This was the easiest way to do it. And I put in 3 tables for him. And then, as you can see, I also embedded a couple PDFs that he needs to complete different activities on here. I added little check boxes, and you do that by up here in the to-do. There are other labels that you can do, or they're called tags. But if you have questions, you can have little symbols of books to read, videos to watch. These were ones that I added, but I didn't end up using them. I saw the suggestion, I don't remember where, on another video, and I really liked the idea, but as it turns out, I didn't use it. But from here, you can right-click on it and then go down to Set as Default Template. And then when you go to Add a Page, look at that, it fills it in for you. Now, as you can see, I don't have the coloring and stuff because I did that after I had made the template. That was done towards the end of it all. Bad way to do it, but that's the way. I didn't think to change colors until the end. You can see down the pages column, I really kept all of them at a few weeks at a time. It makes it easy enough. It's not long, so there's not a lot of scrolling involved, which was something I didn't want him to get. I didn't want there to be something so far down that he lost track of it, if that makes sense. Now, for other courses, instead of doing it day by day, I'm just giving him chunks of things to read and to do. That is actually how I'll be moving him as we go through the year. Like so here in week 25, I don't care when you do it during the week, but figure out your own pacing. Because I really feel like as a 9th grader, it's important for him to learn to do that and figure it all out himself. But he needs some scaffolding. So we're starting out day by day, where he can actually do anything he wants during the week. I don't care when he does it. And moving it more towards this, where he's more directly in charge of figuring out how to spend his week. And then I also included the full PDF here in the master copy. He doesn't really need this ever, but I wanted it there so that if we have a question during the day, we don't have to go looking for the PDF. And then I just have a couple other ones that I thought I would show you different ways I did it. With Elizabeth's history in high school, we broke it down by units, and then I just gave her everything she needed to do at the beginning of each unit, and she would go through and plan it out herself. Same with biology. I just had a template that I copied from week to week and put in the information that she was going to do. Here's another one that I did. You can see my planning. I had my topics up here.